but including in places such as Sudan and even the DRC, actually managed to find their way to the website and take a look around and contribute. We assembled a technical advisory group, and this is a group of 32 people who work in the field of development and who are acknowledged as really being practitioners and people that the community looks to for advice around knowledge management and activities. And we asked them to take a look at the stories and look around, clarity, analysis, creativity, and replicability, and score them. And each case stories was reviewed by at least 5 members. So we had a pretty wide breadth of experience looking at each individual case story. And what we found in terms of, the list here is the types of initiatives that were actually sent in. And capacity building and focus on organizational performance were really 2 of the things that seemed to intrigue or interest most of the contributors that brought it in. But there was also innovative use of media, knowledge centers, learning events, networks and communities of practices, and technology transfer and extension and support. And I think one of the things that was really appreciated by the technical advisory group was actually the innovative use of media, especially in communities where you really had a wide range, if you will, in terms of literacy and numeracy. And then in terms of the sectors represented, agriculture, we're talking about development, was the most represented, and you had everything from health to IT to conservation, including governance, represented there. And then these are some of the tools that were used, and some will be quite familiar, such as situation analysis and after-action reviews and results-based management. There were a few that were quite new to us, such as the gender analysis matrix, and a few that have been around for a very long time, such as the balanced scorecard. But we got quite a mix of tools and methods that were mentioned in the case stories. And then, of course, data collection strategies, everything from diaries to short video footage to work groups and focus groups and meetings. And you'll be familiar with some of the challenges identified. Too much data is confusing. Quite a few came back saying, okay, so we're doing this innovative thing, but we have to collect so much data that, we're concentrating more on the data than on the thing. A lack of time and lack of resources to document and the experience. And looking at the last one, a lack of ownership of assessment, if you will. Some of the least interesting case stories were those where it was sort of like, the donor wants me to do this, so I'm just going to do that. And then there was some challenges around involving all stakeholders in not only, if you will, the project management, but also the people who were involved in the day-to-day activities and the communities that they were involved in. And some of the success factors, the strongest really was building trust and ensuring, knowledge sharing. Communities very often feel, some communities would say, well, you're studying us, what are you doing with all this information? And where there was actually a good success and adoption was where the communities were involved and they could see what the information was being used for. It was a transparent process, if you will. and how they could contribute and how they could benefit then from not only getting the information, but also sharing some more information with the project and with surrounding communities. And here are two quotes from from two of the case stories. And some of the emerging lessons, and we're still looking at and talking with the case story authors, but the strongest stories were those that incorporated monitoring and evaluation from the beginning of the process, and also used the results of that to generate actionable data, that they then applied to the project. And then once again, simplicity is key. Too much data makes things confusing. Keep it simple. What's happening with this initiative is at the end of this week, the top case story authors have been invited to share more about their stories. As I mentioned before, we'd asked for 1,200 words, and of course there's a lot more that needs to that we can garner from that. And so where there has been some information exchange online and remotely, they're going to spend 2 days face-to-face, if you will, and the idea there is to not only share more in-depth information about their case stories, but also build that community. And what we're going to do is then document and share and add to the current knowledge of the wider community what comes out of the next 2 days. Thank you. And if you'd like to know more about that particular initiative, please go to this website. And sir, you had a question.
I guess one thing I wanted to make sure I was clear on, the target population, was it the folks in USAID or was it the customers of USAID?
It was actually both. So it was the folks at USAID, the contractors that get USAID money, non-profit organizations, and really any practitioner around the world who's working in development. If they had a knowledge management activity to share, we encourage them to share it with us.
So in a country where there's aid given, let's say, the population there was not part of the...
No, it was specific activities. Now, the idea is, of course, as all this comes back, because all this is going to be fed back to USAID. So some of the methods that are coming up and that are showing success and promise, then the idea is to show USAID their return on investment for a particular project. And the reason why we also looked at replicability is, to also offer some methods and activities that can be replicated in with diverse projects.
So are we allowed to go to your site and look at, like...
Please do.
Results?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I mean, your question about measurement, I think everybody wrestles with that. And, I'll hone in on your statement, is the world a better place, I think it was, right?
Correct, yes.
And I'll be honest with you, in our efforts, that statement was hard to measure because nobody could say how they measured it today. In other words, how do you know it's better if you don't know where you started from?
True.
Using that as an example, in our ballpark, being able to say where we started at and the lack of that fidelity led to difficulties in determining whether we got better or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
It's
yes.
tough because a lot of people don't measure today where they're at, let alone what you're trying to do with KM. So I applaud the effort. I think it's a great initiative.
Well, thank you. And what field?
Military, that side of the house.
Okay.
But it's the same animal in terms of measurement. How do you know where you went if you don't know where you started from? You know?
I beg your pardon?
There is baselining going on.
Well, there are, in most USAID projects, there is a baseline at the start of the project. But the question, though, is different. As we share knowledge and as we focus on information exchange, then the thing is, and how can we go back and say that particular activity of exchanging information, of, sharing knowledge has led to improvement in the project, and that's
And much of that has
what
to
we're.
do with this industrial age mindset plus the knowledge economy mindset. It's two different environments. It's tough road.
Yes, sir.
You had a prime objective, I think I saw, of measuring or assessing application of the knowledge.
Correct.
Have you done any follow-through, like from beginning to end, from an initiative all the way through to an individual who got this knowledge and used it? So you can at least create an allegory so you can have a story. Have you done that?
No, that's what we are starting to do, and with this initiative, that is part of the objective. But then we would like to go even further, because they have applied the knowledge. Okay, now has that improved
Yeah.
their lot and the lot of their
Automatic
community?
objective of everything you're doing.
Exactly.
And you can get the stories and the allegories long before you can even figure out what to measure in numbers.
Yes. Yes. And so there definitely is going to be quite a bit of reliance on what we call, qualitative data, if you will, individual stories telling us how this has improved their livelihood, and or how they've used that knowledge, and hence, like there's just this morning I was looking at one of our contributors works in East Africa and Arid Lands Network. And what they have done is they've set up either in buildings or in containers, in very arid lands, and all in northern Kenya, in Uganda, and in Tanzania, centers where they've set up little libraries and computers, and they've staffed it. And people from around the communities will come there and ask, specific questions. And they will help them find either the correct book, if they can read, or a video explaining something if they cannot read, or link them with someone else in another community that has done the same thing, if you will. So some of the stories that are coming back, are people who have increased, their crop yield on their small parcel of land. And therefore being able to sell the extra and send their kids to school. So those are some of the stories that we're starting to collect.
Perhaps some
We-
of the stories may even tell you impediments to why it was not being able to apply. That will also
Yes.
be very valuable.
And part of the learning, because it is continuous. So the same project, after 2 years, actually found that one of their objectives was to reach as many women as possible. Well, they were in communities where women were really not willing to travel and go into this strange container with these strange gizmos. And so what they've started doing is actually recording things on iPods, and so almost having a library system, and women can so they go to the villages and give that to the women, and come back and collect it, and they found that they've reached far more, and are now starting to collect stories from those women as to how they've actually applied, and then are going to follow up a few later to find out how that has changed their status. Yes, you, and then you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
why did you